Do you want to stay more focused on the right goals in your life, or even just figure out what the right goals are for you? Do you want clarity? Do you want better work-life balance? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Success Through Failure.
Welcome to the Success Through Failure podcast, the show that reveals failure as your path to success. You'll listen to intriguing interviews with some of the most successful people on the planet and learn how their failures became a launchpad for success and how yours can too. Here's your host, former Division I All-American wrestler, former Division I head coach, speaker, and personal coach, Jim Harshaw.
Welcome to another episode of Success Through Failure. This is your host, Jim Harshaw, and today I'm bringing you another solo episode. I've had this one brewing in my mind for a long time, and I've kind of written out some notes on this over the past couple of weeks, and I'm ready to really share this message with you. And it's titled, Why Some People Have It All, or the other title I've been thinking about is The Problem with Single-Minded Focus. And I'm recording this from a new microphone I've got. It's actually just, I'm recording this into my iPhone from a lapel mic. So I'm hoping the audio from this comes out well, because I'm ready to get this message to you. So this is a multi-directional, so you can hear like things from every direction, as opposed to my regular mic, which is unidirectional. I guess you can just sort of speak into it directly if it doesn't pick up noises from the side. So anyway, a little step up in my gear. So I've got another way to easily record podcasts on the go. And so I want to start out by sharing with you a quick story. So when in the fall of 2005, I found myself standing on the banks of the Gauley River in West Virginia. If you've never heard of the Gauley River, it's a massive river in West Virginia with some darn big whitewater, some of the biggest runnable whitewater in the country. And I was standing at the base of the Summersville Dam, which is a 390-foot rock-filled dam that holds back a wall of water that was about to be unleashed into the river below. And they released this water from the dam once a year. Every fall they release it in September or October, and it is just it's whitewater kayaking mecca and rafting. And I was really into whitewater kayaking, the small boats where you're strapped in, sealed in, helmet, the whole bit. I was really into that, really mostly before kids came along, and then I lost my courage because I had more important things to worry about and more riding, more on the line, doing dangerous stuff like this. But at this point, I was ready to run this. I kind of, worked up my skill over several years, and I was finally at the point where I could actually run some serious Class 5 whitewater in a small boat. And so me and two buddies, embarked on this trip, and off we go. We're riding down the Gauley River, and there are several rapids that are just big Class 5 rapids. There are some Class 3s and 4s along the way as well. But Class 5 is considered the largest runnable whitewater. So, Class 6 is considered unrunnable. So Class 5 is sort of the largest runnable rapid. And the first rapid is called Insignificant. It's a long rapid with a big pour over at the top. And there's a big rock about halfway down on the right that's undercut. Undercut meaning water flows under it. And if people and boats go under it, they oftentimes don't come out. So the consequences on that one are pretty significant. But the rapid's name is Insignificant because I guess the first trip down the Gauley River years and years and years ago, they reported that there's, quote, nothing significant in this area. So ran that. We did that safely, got through it. And then we came to a rapid called Iron Ring. It's 2 drops, and the second drop has a hole that's formed by a rock known as Woodstock. And if you're into whitewater at all, everything's named. The rocks are named and the rapids are named. And so there's a rock known as Woodstock that was formed when loggers blasted these the rocks in this area so that logs could flow through. And I'll actually have some pictures. If you download the action plan for this episode, it's going to be jimharshawjr.com/ let's see here. It's going to be 131, okay, is the number of the episode. So jimharshawjr.com/ 131, or if you go to jimharshawjr.com/action, is where you'll get the action plan for this episode. But I'll have some photographs actually from these actual rapids that I'm talking about. So me and my buddies, those two guys were in front of me, and the idea whenever you're running a rapid is to find your line, right? And if you find your line, then it's a sweet ride, right? It's hard. You got to hustle. You got to dig. You got to paddle hard. You got to be smart. You got to pause. You got to actually look ahead and kind of, you have to read the river and plan your route. But if you do it, it can be a sweet ride. If you don't, then things can go really bad. Well, I was following these guys, and one guy, the one actually got too close to the guy in front. You're supposed to leave some space, and he got too close to the guy in front, bumped into him, threw him off, threw his balance off, and he ended up upside down going into the first part of Iron Ring. And it was just, it was terrifying, to be honest, to be upside down above where things get really gnarly. And my buddy rolled up. Yeah, I did his Eskimo roll, combat roll, where you're upside down and you roll up. And he rolled up in time, but he was off balance when he rolled up, and he was off of his line. And it ended up being a long, terrifying trip down through Iron Ring. Again, 2 drops. My buddy was off of his line and upside down and off balance and just out of whack from the beginning. And but he survived. He bounced off some rocks. You wear a helmet. But he bounced off rocks the whole way down, and it was a scary experience. But at the end, we kind of pulled our boats over. We got out of our boats, kind of shook it off. We were all a little bit rattled. The guy who was in front was pissed that the guy behind him got too close to him. But when he got too close, it just caused this sort of chaos the whole way down the rapid. And then we kind of got back in our boats and regrouped and ran the rest of the river, and without incident. And there's a great rapid at the end called Sweets Falls. It's a 12-foot drop. It's just a great way to end the run. It's down towards the end, and it's just and we all hit our line on that, and it was amazing. It was this great ride. And so you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with this podcast and success through failure and having it all? And is it really possible to have it all? Well, the truth is yes. And the idea of having it all it requires reading the river, right? It requires pausing, hitting the pause button, reading the river, and then finding your line, working your butt off to stay on the line, and then getting through, because it can be a sweet, amazing ride, right? But if you get off your line, things can get really chaotic. Things can get really dangerous. Just like running a river, you can get off your line and you start bouncing into rocks, and you can start going into holes that just swallow people. You start going towards undercut rocks, and those are the scary things. But in life, if you are willing to pause, if you're willing to stop, I've talked about the productive pause many, many times. If you're willing to stop and hit the pause button, and for those of you who haven't heard about the productive pause, if this is one of your first few episodes, the productive pause is a short period of focused reflection around specific questions that leads to clarity of action and peace of mind. And my goodness, I can't tell you how important having that clarity of action and peace of mind is when you're above a class 5 rapid, knowing, okay, where do I need to go? Where's my line? What do I need to avoid? What do I need to hit? If things go wrong, what are my escape routes? Having that clarity of action gives you peace of mind. And, I know that when I was growing up, I believed that having it all was just for other people's, for other kids. When I was wrestling, I thought that only, it was other people that had this high self-confidence. When I was, a little older, I thought it was only other wrestlers who could win the state championship. And as a young adult, I believed that it was only other people who could be wealthy, or other people who could have this amazingly balanced life and have it all, right? There always seemed to be something missing from my life. And, I got to a point where I said, hey, I'm going after it. I want to have it all too. And it was interesting. So I started my first company, or actually one of my first companies. I started some other smaller ones through college and earlier on, but started my first real endeavor called Riot Sports Marketing. And some of the listeners you've been friends of mine and followers of mine since those days, 6 or 8 years ago with Riot Sports Marketing. And I secured some angel funding from angel capital from an investor, and we dove into this project. And my goal was to have it all, to have the money and the balance and everything that I thought it was for other people. And I sunk myself into this work for 2.5 years. I kept my head down, busting my tail. And it was about 2.5 years into this thing when I finally lifted my head and I realized this thing's not taking off. This thing's not going to work. And when I finally lifted my head and looked around at my life, I had gone the opposite direction of having it all. I wanted to have it all, but I didn't. I had the opposite of that. I had a broken relationship with my wife. I wasn't spending enough time with my kids. I had debt up to my eyeballs. I was in the worst physical condition of my life. And this is a former, elite athlete. I was an All-American wrestler, an Olympic hopeful, trained at the Olympic Training Center, competed overseas. And here I was in the worst physical shape of my life. And this was the opposite. I was chasing one thing, but actually moving the opposite direction, which is ironic if you think about it, right? And so many of us are chasing that thing, right? We want happiness and fulfillment and satisfaction, and we want everything. We want to have it all in life. But so often we're going the wrong direction because we're looking what's parked in our neighbor's driveway, or we're comparing ourselves to what we see on Facebook, and we're chasing those things, stuff that the media wants us to chase. And the problem isn't that we're chasing happiness and fulfillment. That's fine. And the problem isn't chasing the fact that you want to have it all. That's fine. But the problem is not that for me, it's not that I was chasing something I was passionate about. That was fine. Here's what the problem was. The problem was I had a single-minded focus. And you probably heard of single-minded focus as always used in a positive connotation. And it was, when I was an athlete, it was a positive thing for me. I had a single-minded focus. But you can't afford to have a single-minded focus in the real world. You basically have to have a quadruple-minded focus, right? There are 4 areas where you need to be focused. And if you drop the ball on one of them, you're not going to be fulfilled. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to be satisfied. You're not going to have it all. And those 4 areas are, number one, relationships. Right? We know from reading the Bible, if you're a Christian or if you're strong in your faith, or if you've ever heard about the Grant study from Harvard, it's the longest study of adult life in ever. And the one thing that they conclusively have determined is what brings people happiness is relationships. It's conclusive. It doesn't matter if your wealth, your income, your background, anything, where you live, all these, your job, none of that matters. What they've determined that matters is, number one, relationships, right? And so this is the first area. In the second area of your life that is important, if you want to have it all, you have to be focused on, not a single-minded focus, but for lack of a better word, a quadruple-minded focus. Number one is relationships. Number two is self, okay? We all know that we feel better when we're growing, when we're improving, when we're getting better, right? When we have personal growth, or if we're making an impact in the world through philanthropy or through volunteering, or doing things that fill us, that are fun, that are enjoyable. Those are the things that help you. That's the second area, like the self goal. Those are the things that help you feel like you're moving forward, you're making progress in your life, and life is, certainly the first two, the growth or the impact. Those help. Those you're getting better as a person, and then fun is that you just know you're doing things that feed your soul, right? Whatever those things are for you. That might be hunting or fishing, it might be camping, it might be some other hobby that you have, but that's important. And then the third area is your health and fitness. We know that health and fitness is important. We know that when you're healthy and fit, when you're exercising, it improves brain function. We know that when you eat right, you can stay focused for longer periods of time. And that's the third area. So making sure that you're balanced in your health, in your fitness, in your wellness, in your diet. And then the fourth area is wealth, right? And when I say wealth, it's about not just how much money you make, but it's about your profession, your career, those things, and feeling like you're growing there and you have goals there. And when you're moving towards those goals, even if you haven't achieved them yet, if you know you're getting closer to them and making progress, that's when you start feeling like you have it all. It's not about a single-minded focus. It's about being focused on the right things. And there's a million things you can be focused on in your life. But when you're focused on the right things, you can have it all. You can have it all. You can have a great relationship or relationships. You can feel like you're growing as a person, making an impact on the world. You can feel healthy and fit and and as a result, productive and vibrant and energetic. And you can have the fourth part, the wealth, the job that you want, the income that you need. And the first part of that is recognizing that if you're listening to this podcast, you're among the wealthiest people on the planet. So first of all, you got to recognize that. I mean, you have probably if you're listening to this, you probably have everything you need. Most of my listeners are in America, of course, and actually a shout out to my listeners overseas. I was just kind of looking at some statistics yesterday. I've got listeners, about 85% of my listeners are in America, but I've got listeners in Canada, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. So shout out to all my international listeners as well. But so it's relationships, self, health, and wealth. Can you have it all? Absolutely. What's required? A productive pause, taking a short period of focused reflection around specific questions that leads to clarity of action and peace of mind. And I'm going to have all this outlined in the action plan. I'm going to have a link to the grant study. I'm going to have some pictures of some of those rapids actually that I was talking about. So I have a lot of resources over there in the action plan for this. So again, jimharshawjr.com/action. I encourage you to wrap your head around this, understand that you can have it all. It is possible, but you've got to take action. You've got to move forward. You've got to understand the framework that I just outlined for you. So I hope that helps, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, rest of your week, and the rest of 2018 is just your best year yet. Until next time, take the time to get clear on your goals and embrace failure as a stepping stone on your path to success.